First of the resolutions tonight is the local option sales and service tax election. And with that, Carol.
You have before you two forms of resolution, both of which have virtually the same wording, and I will let David explain. They would extend the authority for sales tax collection from the city of Carroll for another 10 years. David?
Thanks, Gerald. As Gerald said, these two resolutions are virtually identical with the exception of the sunset language in the, not sure which, if it's your first one or your second one. It's the second one, I understand. So you, and I have run this language by Jill Shetler at the auditor's office. She has approved it along with their state legal counsel. So we've been looked at a couple of times. You might say some of this is a little surplus language. You know, there's a summary that says about the same thing as the question that's asked. I asked Joan about that, and she said, well, that's required. So we're going to leave it in there. So essentially, the 1% would extend from January 1st, 2014. The revenues would be spent 25% property tax relief, and the other 75% would be for necessary capital improvements or any other projects that the council would deem appropriate.
And I think that we've had some pretty good discussion actually just a few weeks ago, and the paper's done a really nice job of covering all of the positive things that we've been able to do with the local option sales tax the last 10 years. I think the $2.3 million in debt relief that we've been able to put forward. We're starting to see a trend develop in terms of street maintenance and improvements there. And I think the fact that there is a nice balance of tax relief, along with the fact that it does leave things fairly open for us to make sure to address those infrastructure improvements and or those things that are going to improve quality of life, I think that's really important. So I think that's been very well publicized thus far by the media. And I think that the research that we've done has been very good as well. Up to some discussion.
I know one of the discussion items I think we had was on the idea of a sunset or no sunset. And I think there's been some who've received some feedback on that. I mean, I do think you could make a case for no sunset, but given the fact that there is some concern out there, I mean, if we approve it with the sunset, we're essentially approving the same language that we would have 10 years ago for voters. And I guess, to me, I think this is a critically important issue for our community. I think it's going to be even more important probably 10 years from today if we pass it with a sunset. But I know I caught feedback from one person, actually was not even a resident of the city, talked for residents supposedly of the city, but said there was concern with the idea of trying to get this passed without a sunset. So I think it was worthy of discussion, but I think that's an issue I can probably find acceptable with the sunset still in there. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts.
Could we separate that and have two issues on the ballot? One to pass it, and then one separately to continue as a sunset? Has it got to be, the language has to be in the...
Yeah, it has to be one question.
It has to be just one question.
Yes.
That's what I, okay.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty pleased with the feedback I've gotten. I've had quite a few people approach me about it. Everybody that's approached me has been 100% for it, but everybody's also been for the sunset. And the biggest reason that's being placed is nobody knows what the economy's going to do in 10 years from now, and they just like having a little bit of say in it.
I guess that's what the concern was when I brought it up. I think, it's a matter of knowing what's going to happen in 10 years, and there are people out there that still want to have their voice into the matter. And I know, and I realize, and I've looked at the statistics on the Iowa election website, there's a majority that don't have the sunset anymore, but as I'm looking at the statistics of the last election, I think we're going to be hard pressed to try and do it without the sunset.
Yeah, I thought it was a good idea to bring it forward, to have some discussion, to really see where the citizens were at on it. I think, 10 years from now, I would venture to guess that we will be very much reliant on this source of income. I mean, we're seeing the trends already that if we want to stay with a competitive tax rate and still be able to provide the services that the folks here in town have grown accustomed to, we're going to have that additional income stream. But at the same time, I can understand the public's wish to, once in a while, just bring it back up to us and have a review and do your due diligence and point out the things that you're doing for the community and what this impact is. And I can definitely see the comfort that citizens would take in that as well. So I think that it's important for us to even now continue for the next few months and make sure that folks are aware that the monies that the city is able to generate by being the regional employer and by pulling people in as we continue to develop economically, that money works its way back out into all of the communities in Carroll County, and the county is also able to deal with and utilize those funds. And as you've probably seen, they may be in need of those funds as well with some of the budgetary issues that they'll be handed quite possibly in the future. So I think it's very important for everybody to recognize that, whether they live in the city of Carroll or not. This is important to their friends and their neighbors and their coworkers as well. So.
I guess with that said, I would make a motion that we adopt resolution, the second one, with the 10-year sunset.
Before you do that, though, I think in 10 years, or in 8 years, actually, you need to have a survey the city where they feel at it. So we're not trying to guess what they want. We have an actual factual to look at. Because when you get calls, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone feels that way. Those who feel strongly will call you. Others, and maybe the majority or not, will be silent and allow you to make your decision. So I'm fine with the sunset part of it in there because it does make us go back and we look at it again and make sure we're doing as the people of Carroll want us to do. But I also think had we had that survey a year ago, we would have had a better understanding and a better decision right now. So I'm fine doing this, but I'd like to put it in the books, Carroll, and who's ever here, to have that kind of due diligence done so that we can make that decision.
What kind of survey are you talking about? Like what people, how they feel how it's being used, or what they would like to see used for? Or?
Do you want a sunset? Do you not? Do you feel it's being used the way you want? Do you not? A couple simple questions.
I think if you included in that Region 12 survey that just went out, that could have been something that could have been included in that one. We would have had the one that Region 12 just had done about the community.
But that wasn't intended to be a survey.
No, but it's something I think that you could have included in that. If you wanted to make instead of rather than this just a separate survey, you could have included in that survey. Or if there isn't, Region 12 doesn't want to do one at that time, we can do our own.
I think Tom has a good point, but I think it has to go both ways. And I think that it needs to be communicated how vital this local option sales tax is to the basics we're providing. In just the last 2 budget cycles, $950,000 for street repair, 25%. We're receiving $1.2 million. It's flattened pretty much at $1.2 million. 25% of that is going to property tax relief, and then just under $1 million going to street repair. It does not leave much of a balance left. So I think we need to, also educate the public on how it is being utilized and that it is vital to basic infrastructure and to their advantage, that property really also.
And you could do the survey like that. With that said, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think.
This is how we've been
Right,
utilizing it.
right.
With that said,
Right.
I'd like your opinion on it.
Yeah, we're used to looking at how it's been utilized, but not everybody in the public is probably aware of the uses and the broad uses that it's been put to at the airport, the streets, et cetera. So it's pretty vital, not only for those purposes, but as you know, we're enhancing the city, and that's how we keep and attract people. So it's really.
I think you make a very, very good point there, Carolyn, because with this, to a degree, this isn't something that we can spend money going out and promoting the cause to do this. So the people who have concerns or issues, I mean, I think the 6 council people and the mayor are prepared to help you explain if you have questions. If you're upset about something, let's make sure what you're really upset about, if it is something related to this, because this is really, it's probably one of the most important votes our community will have in quite some time, I think.
Well, we're currently using planning session that the council has every year. We have a capital improvements plan that we put together. We have a budget that's well publicized as to what goes on. What other things do you think would be helpful?
No, I'm speaking purely from the perspective of somebody sitting at home, somebody reading the paper, somebody watching the TV, making an opinion and saying, hey, I don't like this or I don't like that. Please call any one of us to help better educate. We've been in our budget meetings. I think a lot of us have been all to at least one now. Our budget meetings are probably our more likely attended meetings of the year, and they can get pretty long. So I don't say that to be mean to people, but some people, they don't want to come here. They might not want to go to a session. But if you have a really strong concern, call your council person, call any one of us to make sure your concern is properly placed, and put it that way.
Well, and money does go out into the outlying communities, which enhances the entire region. But I think people also need to realize that, yes, it is a tax, but I view it as a revenue stream that is very vital. And anybody who comes and shops in Carroll from the whole region is helping us in Carroll with our property tax, holding down property taxes. They are helping us pave our streets, so it is a vital revenue stream that is being spread out among all the folks who, really, it's a consumption tax. And so we have a broad base of people contributing to making Carroll progressive in the place it is. So it's something we've really come to depend on.
So perhaps
I think
to answer,
we know that.
So perhaps to answer Carol's question as well. After our August session, where we always do all of our accomplishments, in the second section, you can put an address to our paper to print how we've used property tax this year for local option, how it was spent this past year, so they can see exactly where we put it each year by itself. That sound good? I mean, we always bulk it together. This would be a separate piece.
But you're informing the public, and that's who needs
Right.
that's who needs the information.
That's what I'm getting.
Right.
We have a natural in our utility bills, we can stop.
Well, we have a great source sitting right over there. Get it out.
They're already publishing a fair amount of this material. I'm not saying that it's not being done. What I'm saying is that I want you to help me figure out how to reach more people. Because the information is widely available, We go through all 3 of those steps. And I don't know how many times we talked about sales tax is going to pay for this, sales tax is going to pay for this. Many, many times during budget discussion. and during the preparation. And now we have the list of items that it's been expended for. It's a matter of reinforcing it.
So I'll say it again, a news release to the gentleman sitting there after our session we have in August, expressing how it's been spent and how we utilize it in the past year.
The
Well,
vote
I
is
think there's
obviously-
tons of information already out there, and it's very accessible. I mean, people need to take the initiative and maybe look for it. It's like, we can't stuff it down their throat. If they really want to know, there's 100 different places they can find it in. I think we're just beating a dead horse there.
Well, we'll keep working on educating the public and working with the media and try to make the decisions that need to move forward. So I guess with that, I'd be looking for a motion.
He already motioned.
You got a motion?
We have a motion and a second to approve that second resolution that has the sunset.
This is to have the sunset in it?
To have the sunset, yes. Jensen?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Eifert?
Yes.
Sharpleton?
Yes.
Tate? Stevens, sorry.
Yes.
Motion is approved.